Sweet. I'm the assistant principal here for student services. For those of you I don't recognize, and for those I do recognize, thank you for coming and just hearing our presentation tonight. So I've been in the student service office for 2 years. Last year I was an intern. This year I am the assistant principal, and I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, like many of you have, so I'm with you. But as an educator, as an assistant principal, and as a parent, you know, I'm starting to see these trends, and I just thought it was really important to have some dialogue and understanding of the new apparatus and substances that are now, you know, influencing our students and our teenagers, and it's different from what we experienced when we were of this age. I'll tell you, as an administrator, there have been times when we've had to intervene with students who sometimes are just unknowing of what they are trying, and so we're here to educate. And so we have a great panel of people with us this evening. I have to thank several people from the South Kingstown, I want to make sure I get the titles right, South Kingstown Partnership for Prevention and the North Kingstown Prevention Coalition. They had come to us in the fall and actually did a faculty presentation, which was probably one of the best PD. Our faculty were really appreciative. They heard a lot of information, not only as adults, as parents, but as educators, you know, and just understanding these trends with vape pens, e-cigarettes, and you know, some of the opioid things that we're seeing on TV and in the news. And you know, North Kingstown is like any town USA. So we would be naive to think it's not in our neighborhoods or, you know, in our town or in the local communities. So education and awareness is our goal tonight. So I'm going to introduce Kathy Yeager. She's our coordinator here at the North Kingstown Coalition, just to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see so many parents and people in North Kingstown here tonight. Speak up. Speak up. Should I speak into this? Does it work? Yeah. That might be better for me. As Ms. Sweet said, I'm the coordinator for the North Kingstown Prevention Coalition. We're a group of volunteers here in the community that get together on a regular basis to discuss the issues of substance use in our community. And we're all about education and awareness around the issues. I just wanted, Ms. Sweet said it all, so there's not too much more for me to say, but I wanted to let you know that there's a table over here with some information on it that you're welcome to take. And I also wanted to mention that, well, one of the things that we do is collect information through, collect data through surveys and focus groups and talking to key people in the community. And the coalition is interested in parents who might want to participate in a parent focus group. So I have a piece of paper over there if you're interested in doing that or learning more about the coalition and possibly coming involved. There's a sign-up piece of paper over there, and I truly appreciate it. We don't need too many parents. Maybe we'd like them for, how many people here from the high school have high school kids? About everybody. Is anybody from the middle school? Yeah. Oh, great. That's great. So we're looking for both middle school and high school parents, and we only need a handful or so. And we'd like to do this in April. And if you sign up, we'll get in touch with you. I also want to recognize 2 people that I work with here today, Robin Monica and Kathy Sullivan. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much.
It's a great honor today to introduce one of our first panelists. I had sent biographies out, but a brief introduction of U.S. Attorney Naronha, who was appointed by President Obama in September 2009. In his capacity as Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for Rhode Island, U.S. Attorney Naronha supervises the prosecution of federal crimes and the litigation of civil matters in which the federal government has an interest either as a plaintiff or a defendant. And he's here tonight to share with us the state response to opioids. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, I'm going to try to use my courtroom voice so that I can reach you. My name is Peter Naronha, and I'm the United States Attorney for Rhode Island. There are 93 of us around the country, and we're responsible for enforcing federal law in each of the districts in which we are appointed. We're appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. So I'm not Peter Kilmartin. I get confused with him all the time. He's a great guy, but that's not me. It's unfortunate that we share fortunate that we share first names and middle names, so I get confused with him quite a bit. So the agencies that we work with are, the FBI, DEA, ATF. We're the office that prosecutes cases that those agencies bring to us. You know, we did Gordon Fox back in the day, we did CNC if we go back farther, we do organized crime, just to give you a sense of sort of what it is that we do. We also work with DEA, both in terms of criminal enforcement and monitoring prescription pill distribution. And that's what I want to talk to you about very briefly tonight, because Heidi and Dave from my office are going to talk about marijuana. And I know that's the thing that your children and you are most likely to come across as parents. I'm a parent myself. I have a son in college, and I have a son who goes right here to North Kingstown. He is a sophomore, and I sat right over there last night for the band concert. Was anybody here for the band concert last night? If you were, it was really, really good, wasn't it? I'm amazed at how talented kids are today. But kids have a lot more access to information, and they have a lot more stuff going around them than we ever did. You know, I went to North Kingstown High School, class of 1981. Those of you, did anybody go to North Kingstown High School, parents? Not a single one. Wow. Well, this place was a dump. You know, it was about 7 or 8 buildings, and I'm not joking. Kids would go off into the woods and get high as they were changing classes. I mean, it was really hard. The principals back then, God bless them. You weren't. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was really crazy. But you know, so the problem we deal with today is not any different than what was going on in North Kingstown back in 1977 to 1981 when I was going to school here. And the difference today is that, you know, back then, if somebody was smoking pot and they had a joint, you could smell it pretty easily. Today, as Dave's going to talk to you about, and Heidi's going to talk to you about a little bit, it's much harder to track it down. So they're going to talk to you about marijuana, and that's really important. But it would really be remiss of me not to talk a little bit about opioids as well. And when I'm talking about opioids, I'm really talking about the painkillers that you can find, Vicodin and Percocet, things that you can find sometimes in your own medicine cabinets, and it's the same thing that you find in a bag of heroin. They're chemically the same thing. And there is a tremendous amount of heroin in Rhode Island at the moment, and it's incredibly cheap. Does anyone know what it costs for one bag of heroin, a small bag that you would use for personal use? How much do you think it's worth? $5. That's exactly right. $5, okay? So you can shoot up heroin and kill yourself for $5, okay? And people are killing themselves with heroin, both in Rhode Island and around the country. There were nearly 250, maybe more, 250 deaths. I have this all written down, but I didn't want to bore you with that. But there's between 200 and 250 deaths from heroin overdose last year, roughly the same number the year before. We're on the same pace for this year. So not overdoses, overdose deaths.
That's just Rhode Island.
Just Rhode Island, okay? Just Rhode Island. Not across the country, just Rhode Island, okay? There are nearly 2,000 administrations of Narcan. Narcan is what you give someone who's overdosing to try to bring them back. In just Rhode Island, in the last few years, each year, there's been almost 2,000 administrations of Narcan. In fact, I was out talking to the state police recruits yesterday in Foster, and they're all going to be issued Narcan when they get out of the academy, like all the other troopers. That's how prevalent heroin is today. So how do you get hooked on heroin? You get hooked on heroin many, many times, we find and have found, by abusing opioids, okay? The things you get in supply, sometimes with 30, 60, 90 pills, if you have a surgery or you've been to the dentist, okay? And so what we find in law enforcement is that when you squeeze down on the opioid abuse side of the equation, heroin use rises. And when you squeeze down on heroin use, opioid use rises. And so, you know, we can interdict all the heroin coming out of Mexico we want, and that's where it's coming from. It's being brought here by the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. And we in federal law enforcement, working with our state partners, can address that as much as we can. DEA is doing a great job in tracking down and enforcing the prescription pill laws. So for example, if a pharmacy or a prescriber is not following DEA regulations, they're doing a really good job of that. But we can't prosecute our way out of the opioid and heroin problem. It starts with prevention, and the way to prevent people from getting hooked on heroin and opioids is to not get them opioids in the first place. And so when it comes, we could talk about this all night, and I could talk about the prescription monitoring program and how important it is for prescribers to check that, but I want to focus on your children. And I want you, if you have stuff in your medicine cabinet, or you have friends who have stuff in your medicine cabinet, you need to get rid of that stuff because your kids are going to find it. Again, I don't have the statistics in front of me. They're out of my car. I didn't want to bring it all in here. But it's a staggering number. There was a study done a couple of years ago, and it's a staggering number as to where kids get opioids. It's something like, it's more than 50% of them get them or buy them from friends or relatives, okay? So our medicine cabinets in this country are literally killing people. Our medicine cabinets are killing people. They're getting children and adults hooked on opioids, and when prescribers, when they run out of the opioids, or when they're already hooked on them and they go to their physician, they can't get more than they turn to heroin, and the heroin is laced with something called fentanyl, and they're dying. So, again, you're going to focus on marijuana tonight, but, you know, this is a community that can be impacted by heroin like everywhere else. There are 39 cities and towns around, as you know. Again, I don't have the number in front of me. If I had my notes, I could tell you. But of those overdoses over the last couple of years, you know, round numbers, between 25 and 30 towns have been impacted. So it's not like it only happens in Providence. It's not like it only happens in Central Falls. It happens in Barville, and North Kingstown, and Jamestown, and Westerly, and all across the state. So I would just ask you to be aware of that. And you know, I like to think that that's not going to be a problem with young people in high school, let alone middle school. But I think if we're not watchful and careful, it could happen. So what I would encourage you to do when you go home tonight or this weekend is take a look inside that medicine cabinet. And if you've got Vicodin or Percocets or things like that in there, those are opioids. And when you see those pill bottles that maybe you had, as I said, a 30-day supply from some surgery or your spouse did, and they're just sitting in there, you should really look at those opioids as if there are bags of heroin in there. And that heroin will kill you and your children, or anyone who happens to come upon it. It's very easy to get rid of it. I'm pretty sure the North Kingstown Police Department has a box for it. So if you don't know what to do with it, some people throw it down the toilet. That's not the best thing to do with it, frankly. You can take it down to NKPD, and they have a big green box, and you just dump it in. So I would encourage you to do that. So I won't take more of your time. You've got a lot to learn tonight, I hope, about some of which you may already know, some pretty incredible things that are out there for kids today. As I said, it's a much more complicated world for children today than it was when I was going to high school here. So I wish you well as a parent, kind of feel your pain and your concern. I wanted my son to come with me tonight. He says he was doing his homework. I hope that's right. I'm going to leave now, go find out. Check on, make sure that's the case. But I do wish you well, and if there's anything that my office can do for you to assist, and if any of you, for whatever reason, any context, want to hear more about this opioid problem, I'd be happy to spend more time with you. So with that, I'll leave you to Heidi and Dave, and I wish you a great evening. Thank you.
Naronha, we appreciate your time. And just for the sake of our school community to know, North Kingstown High School, our school nurse, several of our PE teachers, several of our clinicians, our deans, and administration have been trained in the use of Narcan, and we do have it on our premises. And hopefully we'll never need to use it. On an anecdotal piece, I will say several years ago, my own home was broken into. I was here at school, last day of school, and I had neighbors call me and say, "What's going on at your house?" I said, "Well, I don't know, I'm not there." And long story short, I wound up going home to find that our house had been robbed. And as the police officer prepared us that we were about to, that we in fact did not give permission for anyone to be in our home, and we were about to enter it, I had all these images flash by my head, very materialistic things, like they flash my flat screen, or, just the, where's my wedding album? Like, who would want to steal that? Nobody but me, right? But, you have these horror, like, what did I leave on the bathroom floor? Like, and we walked into our house, and we kind of looked around, my husband and I, and we said, "You sure our house has been broken into?" They're like, "Yep." And we, "Okay, can you identify what's missing?" And we couldn't. I mean, I couldn't even tell my house had been broken into. And so, long story short, we worked with Narragansett Police, and they wound up recovering several items, one of which were a set of our house keys, because the intention was they took just a little without us noticing, because the plan was to come back without having to break in. And what they did find were two different types of substance, it's going to sound wrong, controlled substances. My husband had knee surgery, so exactly what Attorney Naronha is talking about is what's in your medicine cabinet. So the 4, pills, Percocet that are no longer needed for my husband's knee pain were now in a criminal's pocket, undetected to us. And that was a criminal coming into our home, never mind a child or, a guest coming into our home and just partaking. So it's that real, and and it's that personal for me as an educator and as an adult and as a parent. And so I share that with you. So without much further ado, I will introduce Heidi Driscoll. She has been the coordinator of the South Kingstown Partnership for Prevention for 2 years. Her previous background is in education. She was a teacher in a private nursery school for 10 years. She has a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in education. In addition to the everyday tasks of running her coalition, she is the advisor for numerous youth-led organizations at South Kingstown High School, and we work in partnership with them, and we thank her for being here today. She did a fabulous presentation to the faculty, and I hope you enjoyed her presentation.
So first we're going to see if we can get the remote to work. It's all this technical stuff, but while they're figuring that out, I just want to say good evening. Especially people back there, can you hear me? Because I walk around a lot, so I hate to use a handheld mic. Excellent. If you can't, just move on closer. So, see if this is going to work or not. I'm going to tell you a little about, Mrs. Sweet just told you I work in South Kingstown. I basically do the same thing that Kathy Yeager does in North Kingstown. And Dave and I started this presentation about, oh my gosh, almost 2 years ago now. And Dave had joined our coalition. He's a parent in South Kingstown. And I kind of said to him, Dave, I'm starting to see this new trend of things going on. You want to come and we'll just kind of talk to the faculty a little about it? Well, from there, it just kind of snowballed because someone just said to me this morning, oh, thank you. Okay. Someone just said to me this morning, if you go on the internet and you do research on electronic nicotine delivery system products, all you really find are ads and solicitations for them. You really don't, as a parent, as an educator, as an administrator, find any information about what they are. So it's kind of like you're already supposed to have that education. Well, I didn't. I had no idea what these products were. So tonight we're going to kind of go through some of them, and we're going to do some hands-on. So you're really going to get to see them, touch them, feel them, find out what kids are doing with them. I had a health teacher a couple weeks ago when we did a presentation, Dave and I, and he's a health teacher at the high school, at my high school, said to me, this is great. It was a great presentation, extremely educational, but I really don't think we're having any kind of a problem with these things in our school. So, thanks, but I said, that's fine, and gosh, I hope we're not. But I said, the entire time we've been doing this presentation, did you know that I've been holding an electronic cigarette in my hand? Oh, no, I didn't know that. So would you necessarily recognize it if you were, if I was a teacher and the student was back there and holding something and maybe just, conveniently bending down once or twice to your backpack? No, probably not. Would you notice if maybe you were walking in the hall and maybe you just smelled like a really sweet, fruit punch or bubble gum smell? No, probably not. So it was kind of an eye-opener. This is a health teacher, and really, it's a trend, and we're going to see some statistics tonight. It's something that is really emerging, and there's not a ton of data yet on it. At the end, if there's time for Q&A, there are some studies that we can talk about, but it's emerging. So let's just go through. I don't want to stand in front of you guys, I'm sorry. So to start off with, electronic cigarette use has officially surpassed traditional cigarette use in youth. We have done a great job as a country talking about tobacco and having our kids use tobacco. Tobacco use is way down. This isn't. Brand new emerging trend. 1 in 7 high school students have tried vaping. It's not called smoking, it's called vaping. Okay, and you'll find out why in a few minutes. It's not a smoke that gets produced, it's an aerosol, it's vaped. So this is a Yale University study, so 1 in 7 high schoolers. High school 30-day use of e-cigarettes. 2011, I know it's really hard to see, but it's up there. 2011 was virtually nil, 1.5%. 2013, we started to see some significance, 4.5%. 2014, 13.4. I'll tell you also, and I don't want to speak for North Kingstown, but in South Kingstown, we did, 2 years ago, we did a student survey, the Rhode Island Student Survey. So every 2 years, we assess our kids and evaluate for trends and things like that, perception and trends. There wasn't even a question on the survey 2 years ago regarding electronic nicotine delivery system products, ENDS. So the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, obviously, you know, we haven't captured the significance of this at all. Middle schoolers also, we're starting to see a rise, 2013, 3.9%. So what that breaks down to, just to give you some hard numbers, nearly 2.5 million US middle and high school students were past 30-day users for e-cigarettes in 2014. That is according to a survey done by CDC. So more than 263 middle and high school students who had never smoked have tried e-cigarettes.
What does 30-day user?
So when we look at something, the study will ask, you know, in the past 30 days, as opposed to in your lifetime. You know, have you ever? So, and it gives us a little better perception of, you know, someone who's using on a regular basis as to someone who maybe just tried it once at a party. So, prevention works. We just talked about this. Tobacco use is at its lowest rate in 2 decades among 12 to 17-year-olds. Again, just try to remember, tonight we're really focusing on youth, 12 to 17-year-olds. Hard to see, but you can see the trends. Cigarette use is the red line, trending down from 2000. Blue is cigar, which, you know, kind of hasn't really changed. Smokeless tobacco also hasn't really changed. You can see the purple line, the 2011 to 2014, and really the spike between 2013 and 2014. And like I said, that spike is going to continue to go up. In Rhode Island, most of us should be getting data hopefully by the summer, so we'll be able to start seeing the trends, at least in Rhode Island, and probably by the fall, we'll be seeing some more nationwide trends. My favorite quote is, "E-cigarettes have arrived. They're here." So basically, what can we do? This is what you can do. You can be educated as to what these are, so that you have knowledge. Knowledge is power. So now you have kind of an idea. If you see something, smell something, gee, what is that? You know, so prevention is education. Education is prevention. Everything that I'm going to show you tonight, I just wanted to put up Rhode Island law. Everything is illegal for anyone under 18. You have to be 18 years old to purchase any of these products. Here's part of the thing. Number one, we all know, you know, we have kids have older brothers and sisters. I know at South Kingstown we have a tremendous issue because so many of our students go to URI. So their older brothers and sisters, friends are right in the community. They don't leave. So now we have access to the whole college crowd. But also, any of these products, it is very easy to purchase these on the web. Several of these things I bought on the web. And literally, if it even asks you a question, the question is as simple as, are you 18? Yes or no? So it is very easy for our kids to get a hold of these products. So I'm just going to give you a little background. First of all, what are these things? Where did they come from? They're really relatively new. In 2003, these were developed. They were developed in Beijing, China, excuse me, by a pharmacist. The pharmacist developed these because His father had lung cancer. His father had been a smoker all of his life, and he was looking for something to be able to help his father, and so that he could still smoke, but not have the effects of tobacco. In 2006, 2007, these products came over to the US. So, I mean, we're talking 10 years. This is really very new. In 2009, the Electronic Cigarette Association was formed, and in 2010, the American Medical Association urges the FDA to try to put some regulations on these products. This is a really important date because, believe it or not, this is where we still are today. We still have no regulations in this area. A lot of these products come from China. A lot of these products, even if they are manufactured in the US, there's no controls on them. I think one of my favorite quotes is someone said, it's like the Wild West. Yeah, you have no idea what you're purchasing. So that's pretty scary. So, what are they? It is a nicotine delivery device that produces an inhalable, flavorable, smoke-like vapor. So I'm going to go ahead and pass a couple things out. I know this isn't the most conducive area, but you know, if you want to see them after, feel free to come on up. If it doesn't get to you, that's absolutely fine. But that way, at least you can, you know, kind of see some of these things. Actually, Dave, can you bring some over there? Thanks. Excuse me one second. I'm just going to take a drink.
Yeah, I think we've seen them.
So again, what's important to know about these is it's a vapor. It's like an aerosol. And it dissipates really quickly. It's not a smoke, so it's not, you know, if someone's smoking, you kind of see the trail of smoke, and the smell lingers. You know if someone's been smoking. Vaping, not true. Very quick aerosol.
Excuse me, you just handed us one that's called black pen. How do you initiate the interested or?
Yep, hold on, great question, yeah. So it's an aerosol, so it dissipates very fast. These basically is, in the chamber, there is a battery that heats up. You inhale on it, the battery heats up the product inside, and it produces the vapor, the aerosol.
Your breath, the heat from your breath activates it when you breathe on it?
No, the battery inside
The
of it.
battery does.
Yeah, the battery heats it. So the one I'm passing, the first one, is kind of similar to probably like a Marlboro Light. It's disposable, it's self-contained, you throw it away when you're done. Maybe you get 900 puffs off of it, okay? So that's what they are.
Yeah, how much are they, like that?
That first one, $10. $10. So I just wanna, I'm not here to, lecture you on nicotine and tobacco, and I really just wanna educate you on the products. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of tell you a little about nicotine for youth. So obviously it's highly addictive, toxic to developing fetuses, and impairs brain and lung development. Adolescent brain is still developing. So during adolescence, this disrupts the formation of the brain circuits that control attention, learning, susceptibility to addiction. These are all really key things when your brain is still forming. One of the huge things is poisonings. Believe it or not, poisonings have resulted from users and non-users ingesting the nicotine oils. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, so kind of keep that in the back of your head. Poison control calls from e-cigarette exposure have increased 1 per month in September 2010 to 215 a month in February of 2014. So one of the other things that you can put in these is a nicotine liquid. And that liquid is highly toxic. And they're also flavored. They're appealing to youth. So what's happening is small children are getting a hold of these, thinking it's some type of candy or solution, putting it on their tongue, and that's where we're getting all the calls to poison control. So there are 3 categories to this, okay, to break it down for you. Electronic cigarettes, vaporizers, and then something that's called heat, not burn. Okay, so 3 categories to electronic nicotine delivery systems. First category was that black one that I have been holding. Those are your general e-cigarettes. They're battery-powered devices. They're made to look, mimic a basic cigarette. They're rechargeable. You could plug them into a wall, handy carport, your USB on your computer. So very convenient. Here's your handy-dandy charger for one. Looks just like, a charger that you plug your phone in with. Okay? This one of my favorites, looks literally just like a cigarette. So the basic idea behind this is someone who is working to stop smoking and maybe wanted to quit smoking. They would use this device as a cessation tool. Start maybe on a product that had a higher amount of nicotine, eventually work their way down. They were holding something in their hand. It felt like a cigarette. It looks like a cigarette. That was the whole idea behind this. Well, it also works the opposite way, so that if you maybe have never used a product, maybe you're going to start with a product that's got very little nicotine in it, then you might like that. You might like the effects of the nicotine. Then you might go to a higher nicotine product, a higher product. So eventually, you're hooked. Nicotine is addictive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll pass that one. So again, these are disposable. They range from probably $10 to $20. Okay? Buy them online. You can buy them at all your convenience stores. Okay? Gas stations, any place like that. Here is a picture of one that has the charger. Those are the batteries that you see down at the bottom. Those are the rechargeable batteries. Comes in something that looks very similar to a cigarette case. That's a disposable e-cigar. So same thing, it's just a cigar. And that one you get up to 1,800 puffs. Get a lot of bang for your buck there.
So, two related questions. How many puffs would be in a real cigarette? Like how many, what's that equivalent to?
How many, Dave knows this.
Is that-
Because Dave knows the nicotine. How many puffs, first of all, is in a real cigarette?
I mean, how many?
I have no
hours?
idea, 10?
I want to say there was 20 to 30, 25 to 30, depending on how many puffs you actually took and how long the inhalations were.
Yeah.
So you would throw that away after 1,800 puffs, or
Yeah.
do you recharge it after 1,800?
No, you recharge it in between that, and then,
If it's in there, it's 1,800 puffs.
yeah. And then, and again, it was $10, much cheaper. Can you imagine having bought cigarettes that would give you 1,800 puffs? That's cartons and cartons and cartons of cigarettes. This you probably just spent $19.99 on. Okay? So the next category, I think one is going around already. It's called a vaporizer. And this is the one that we're probably more concerned about, though don't let me say that I'm not concerned about nicotine addiction in our youth, because I am. But these are more the issues at the moment. And this is a vaporizer. There's a couple going around right now. So basically, I'm gonna see if I can do this. You would go ahead and open the top of it. And there's something called a nicotine oil, an e-juice, that you would have. Comes in a little small eyedropper container. And you would go ahead and put, 3 or 4 drops in. You would put your cover back on. There is a little button that you pump right there, and you can see it lights up as I'm pumping. That is heating the mechanism inside. So that's going to heat the oil that I just put in, and then I'm going to inhale. And when I exhale, I get the vape, okay? Couple things really important to know about this when we talk about the poison control, okay? There are many different kinds of liquids. There are some that are just e-juices, have no nicotine in them. Couple things about that. One, okay, they might not have nicotine in them. Part of the problem is many of these products are coming from China. And they're also finding even the products that aren't coming from China, once they're doing testing on this, they're finding that even if they say there is 0% nicotine, there's still nicotine in them. The other thing is these are all marketed for youth. Bubblegum, cherry pie, root beer. I found one website that you could actually, it was like a designer nicotine oil, you could make your own. So you could take banana and strawberry flavor and you could create banana split. So now you have banana split e-juice or nicotine oil to put into your vaporizer. I think I got ahead of this a little bit. So those are your vaporizers, okay? They come in different colors, different sizes, different price points, everything. If I was, my friend way back in there in the blue shirt, if I was holding this and, you were my teacher, you'd probably think I was holding a highlighter. It doesn't, especially from, back here, you really can't tell what this is. Dave and I have done this. We've had a teacher actually say to us, oh, that's what that student was doing. He was sitting in the back of the class. He kept kind of bending down. He'd get something in his backpack. I kind of thought something was going on, but I didn't know what. He was vaping in class. Again, it's not a smoke, it's an aerosol, and it dissipates so fast.
I know when it's drawing, you obviously see some people in the window, but
Okay, so yes.
That's what I'm.
So, do you want to pass around the big honker? So, this would produce a very small vape. That is going to produce a very large vape. That product is probably about $200. Joanne, if you just want to hold it up for 1 second.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. That was confiscated from a student at a school. I will tell you, the parent called not this school, and not my school district either. The parent called into the student resource officer, and the parent was very upset because they wanted their vaporizer back, because that is over $200. So it was obviously the parents, the kid had stolen it for the day. It's joking. So that, and Dave's going to kind of talk about this a little bit more, those you can really pump up the batteries. So those are the ones that you'll see like someone in a car and you'll be like, what is that? That's what it is. So you can customize them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll start with you guys.
So is the bigger the vape, the better the high or the whatever? Depending on how much nicotine you put in.
Usually the hotter the battery gets, the heat
Yeah.
element, the bigger the battery, stronger the battery, it heats up the chamber that's in there, so you can get more of a vape. In some you can actually, they have little dials on it where you can regulate the amount of heat that the battery is sending to the chamber.
They have a vape contest on this.
Yes. And that's, you can customize them. I'm going to be honest with you, this isn't your typical high school kid buying the $200 customizable. They don't have that kind of money.
Well,
They're
I believe
going.
that. I think there's more than what we think there are.
They're going and
They have a lot of
buying
money.
the $20, you know, on Amazon. That green one I literally bought on Amazon, $19.99. Okay.
I do have a question.
Can you go
Oh,
back?
sorry.
Did you also show a cigar that's a vape, that looks like a vape?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
cigars.
So that was the first one, and that was just an electronic cigarette. So these are vaporizers where you can add a product.
Yeah, you have to see
Yeah,
that.
that
That's the same thing?
Nope, it's not. That is self-contained already. You can't add an e-juice or nicotine oil into it. It comes that way, the battery's in it. You can recharge it, but that's it. 1,800 puffs, you're done, goodbye, throw it away, you're on to your next
And you
one.
can buy that in the convenience store?
Yeah. Yep.
But I'm getting
What's the name of that?
We like to call up the small cigarette. Cigarette is where it's what we're gonna buy.
Okay, so the question was, are you getting the same effect with nicotine? It depends on what the product is you buy. All of them have different levels of nicotine. You can add different levels of nicotine. You know, these e-juices that I have, one has, I tried to find one with like the highest percentage that I could find. This has 10 milliliters. This has like 2.2. I've seen it go up to, with nicotine, I've seen it almost at 20% pure nicotine in this. I've also seen, you know, Neill, 0% nicotine oil. Go ahead.
I'm kind of curious because, you know, cigarette smoking is so bad and I mean, it just doesn't, and there's nothing about it that's healthy. I can see young people, they think, well, it's not healthy for you. But this seems because of the vapor, and it's like, you know, stepping in the shower and the fruity smell and all that. How do kids process this? I mean, what's the whole understanding of children and their understanding of the good and the bad of this product?
That's what we're working on, because at this point, the perception of harm is so low that they're not realizing, number one, that there could be nicotine in these products, that nicotine is highly addictive and very damaging to the teen brain. So they're not getting this. Like I said, we've done a great job as a society talking about tobacco. This is the next conversation we need to have.
But
We need to have.
tobacco has tar in it. This doesn't, you know,
It has.
This, I'm thinking like, you know, caffeine, you know, kids consume caffeine like it's out of control.
Yep.
And nicotine is invisible to them, so it's kind of the same thing going on.
These products still have many different carcinogens in them. So I'm going to take a question, and then just because of time, I'm just going to try to get back on because I don't want to short Dave because his presentation is awesome. Yes, hon?
People think it's actually like water vapor, but the stuff that's coming out is actually water vapor. So they think the stuff that's going in it is just water. And the nicotine is just added to the water.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hearing from youth. That, oh, that can't be dangerous. It's water vapor.
So, are you saying that, is there some water vapor? Because my kids say like, oh, well, it's just water vapor. Like, that's their perception.
Yeah. No, even if you're using a vaporizer and you're using a product that has like an e-juice, so an e-juice supposedly has no nicotine in it, okay? There are studies, they are finding that these products still have carcinogens
Yes.
and nicotine in them.
Not only that,
And they're being produced in China. And again, remember that whole conversation we had about there's no FDA regulations? So there's no one as these come into the country testing this to say, yep, you're right, there's only 5% in here. Yep, 0, great job. That doesn't exist, okay? So let me just try to get through, I only have a few more slides. So again, we kind of covered this, those are different colors, pretty, those are the oils. Again, all different sizes, shapes, as much as you want to spend on them. This is really hard to see, I apologize, but you know, this is something that, they're designer. You know, that looks like a pistol, that looks like, I guess, a lighter. These are vaporizers. That looks like a Newman's box of mints. That looks like a Guinness draft beer. These are all things that you can purchase on the internet. Third category I'm not going to spend a lot of time with. They're called heat, not burn. They're kind of more of what you would typically maybe kind of remember what marijuana might have gone into, where, you know, you would think and you would, you know, show you a picture, you would light it and the marijuana leaves would burn. The difference is you're not burning anything anymore, you're heating it. Dave's going to talk about that. Huge difference on odor. Huge difference. So again, they're cheap. All these products, highly available. All youth appealing flavors, designs, packaging. Products made to conceal. So, this is something I purchased a few months ago. Can you pick out which one is the actual inhaler? Pretty hard pressed, right? So, this is something I purchased from China. It was $69. You would just literally lift this up and you would put your product in here. Now you say, what product? We've only talked about oils. Dave's going to kind of talk to you about the next product and what we're really concerned about that kids are doing with the vaporizers. They're putting marijuana oils into this, which is, first of all, so dangerous. So, you know, all the schools have a policy that, you know, kids can self-inhale, medicate themselves throughout the day. So you could possibly be having a student walking around getting high, not even knowing that. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pass this one around. Last thing I have, question.
Lauren had one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this is before, now I'm even more confused.
It's a lot to take in, I know.
Is it inhaling through the mouth or through the nose? Are those the cigarettes?
Mouth.
So it goes, you inhale through the
Yeah.
mouth, and then aerosol goes in, and then you exhale it, and it comes through your nose, and that's where the, no. You
Yeah, I
just-
think
However you want to exhale.
Yeah.
So, but it's
Mouth,
going in through your
nose.
mouth.
Like,
Yeah.
like a cigarette.
That's
Yep.
why the inhaler works, because, okay, got it.
And again, concealable. It's concealable. So last thing, and just want to go through these really quick. I just added this actually. 5 signs that your child is vaping. Okay, so the first one we touched on was the scent. So a big part of this is you can't really smell these products. You can smell, let's say if someone's using bubblegum flavor, you're gonna smell like a sweetness to it. Okay, if you like, you know, go in your child's room and you're constantly smelling like a vanilla smell, a sweet smell, but you don't see anything, could be, okay? Pens that aren't pens. We talked about that, showed you a bunch of different things that, you know, literally don't look like, you know, you would think it's, you know, a highlighter. Copious sipping of liquids. I'm going to pull out my cheat notes here because I don't want to get this wrong. Propylene glycol is a major product, a major ingredient in these products. Basically what that does is it attracts and holds water molecules from the environment. So this can lead to chronic dry mouth, dry skin. So if your child is maybe sipping copious amounts of liquids, really dry skin, constant chapstick, you know, not in the middle of winter, for, you know, type of thing, could be. Not saying it's necessary, could be, okay? Again, nosebleeds, because again, it's drying your whole mouth and nasal cavity out. And the last is passing on caffeine. For some reason, the nicotine, you kind of don't want caffeine any longer. It was a study done, I don't really know why, but, so, you know, if you have a child who's got that cup of coffee every morning, suddenly something in their, you know, lifestyle is changing, it's just a warning sign to look out for. So, this market isn't going anywhere. 500 million in 2012, 1.7 billion in 2013. And as we talked about, it's going to surpass conventional cigarettes, not just with youth, with everyone in 10 years. That's the prediction from Wells Fargo. So let's wait on questions. Let's get Dave set. And yeah, let's switch it out. And you can do an introduction. And thank you.
A lot of information. It's a learning experience. So I hope if you have questions, you'll stay afterwards, ask a few, and if you think of something like at 2 a.m., like I think of all my great questions, by all means, you can call our office. Jessica Wilkie is our student assistance coordinator here at the high school. Our SRO is a great resource. You know, we are happy to connect you with Kathy and answer your questions. And so, finally, Major David Neill is our next speaker. He received his Bachelor of Science from the University of Rhode Island in Physical Education and Health, and his Bachelor of Arts from Roger Williams in Criminal Justice. Retired as a major after 25 years of service from the Rhode Island State Police, Dave served as the majority of his state police career investigating violations of Rhode Island's Uniform Controlled Substances Act. He has worked for 4 years as an investigator for the U.S. Attorney's Office, District of Rhode Island, and he shared with me that he's a former NK teacher for 3 years. So we welcome him.
Good afternoon. I know it's getting late, so I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. We're going to talk about marijuana, and basically I want you to have an idea of how marijuana is being used, how they're extracting the THC, and how they're smoking marijuana in these vaporizers. So I will go through this very quickly so everybody can get home. But if you want me to slow down or you have a question, just stop me and I will explain it a little better. So the slides, you can't see that great, but when they test marijuana, and again, when we talk about marijuana tonight, I'm not talking about marijuana for patients, medical marijuana patients, etc. I'm talking about teenage, middle school, high school kids. It's detrimental to them all across the state, all across the country. Young kids are seeing all kinds of problems. So when we talk about marijuana, you know, we used to describe it as a greenish brown substance. We all are familiar with the leaves and stems and etc. that were smoked. When I was in college at URI, we probably had anywhere from 3 to 7% THC in marijuana. Now it's in a joint, it can be up as high as 30%. The marijuana strains are just so much stronger. But all the tests, there's over 400 different chemicals in marijuana. And the main chemical that causes most of the effects is THC. And that's what basically alters our perception. So 2 types of cannabis plants. There's indica and stevia and sativa. And basically, all the other plants, all the people have taken these 2 forms of the plants and they've made hybrid plants. That's why they've come up with higher concentrations of the THC. And unfortunately, I can't see this, so I apologize for reading it. So some of the byproducts of marijuana, we have hash oil. What we're going to talk about primarily tonight is just what these products are called that people are dabbing with. When we say dabbing, they're using those in the vaporizers. So, okay, marijuana. We all know marijuana is smoked, usually rolling papers. That's the most common way. We know people put it in bongs, the old water bongs, pipes. They empty out cigars. They pack the marijuana on the cigars, and they call that a blunt. Sometimes they're rolled paper, they'll call it a blunt also. But what the biggest concern is, again, is going to be the vaporizers that we're talking about tonight. And the other concern is edibles. Across the state, high schools, I'm sure you've seen it on the news and heard it, kids are eating the edibles with THC extractions in them. And they're basically either passing out, kind of comatose or whatever, and they need to be taken to the hospital, taken away by rescue. This happened to I'd say at least 5 or 6 high schools here in our state. And we'll talk about why edibles are just as dangerous as the vaporizers. A big thing too, just even being in narcotics, I know within the last 6 months, Kingstown, they raided a guy who was in college, and he had good amount of marijuana in his house. He also had the butane cans, which we'll talk about why that's being used. But he also had anxiety medicine, which he was crushing up into a powder, putting it in a coffee grinder, crushing it up into a powder, and then lacing the marijuana that he was selling with the anxiety medicine. Because, you know, sometimes when some people smoke marijuana, they become anxious or paranoid. So he thought, you know, I get a little better product here. So one thing you have to remember when we talk about marijuana, especially in the schools, everybody wants to sell the best marijuana. So that if I'm a seller, people come back to me to buy the marijuana. And, you know, historically, people have laced marijuana with all sorts of things, from PCPs to you name it, it's been laced. If you see your kids' phones, everybody has them now. 420 is a code that they're using to say, I have marijuana, let's go smoke. And then 710 spells oil backwards. So kids will say, hey, you know, text someone 710, that's a code. Hey, I have some dabs, you know, let's go use a vaporizer, let's go smoke. So 420, 710, two codes that are being used. So you can't really, well, I guess you can see this. You can see the buds and leaves on this marijuana plant. And if it was a better picture, you'd see all little like wax-like things. They're called trichomes. And the trichomes basically will contain the most THC from the marijuana plant. And basically, Heidi talked about a product there was a heat not burn. And even with the vaporizers and how they produce in the dabs, I put that up there just so you can see. Those dissolve at a lower heat source before the plant actually burns. They melt, pulls the THC out, and that's how you're producing hash and the dabs, other products to be used in the vaporizers. And you see the guy with the dirty hand there, he just made hash the old way. He basically kept taking the flowers and the leaves and rubbing them together in his hand. The trichomes with the high amounts of THC just stick on his hands and you scrape them off, roll it in the ball. That was the old method of producing hash. So these new THC extracts, known as dabbing, this is the new drug of choice. And you know, I have 3 kids. My youngest is a senior in high school, and I have one in college and one that graduated a couple of years ago. But this is scary and it's out there. I remember when Heidi and I first started doing this, I'm like, vaporizers? My oldest son was at URI and he's like, Dad, everybody's got vaporizers. Like, everybody's smoking weed and vaporizers. So like, we started doing our research, and it's just amazing how much is out there. And what's amazing is one hit of this wax. So when you extract the THC from the marijuana and some of the methods they're doing it, one hit from this wax can be equal to smoking 20 joints. And the THC is anywhere from 85 to 99% pure. So that's a huge difference compared to back in the day when people would roll a joint and smoke marijuana with 3 to 10% THC in it. So dabbing, the use of marijuana-derived THC extracts made by extracting THC from marijuana. People use butane, cold water, different alcohols, different screening processes, which we'll talk a little bit about. These aren't great pictures, but these are what some of the substances look like, and these are called dabs. Kids refer to them as butter, shatter, wax, butane oil, honey oil. They go by a lot of different names. But they're all basically extractions of THC from marijuana. So Heidi passed around all the different vaporizers. And you see the vaporizer over on the picture over on the right, the one in the middle, there was the wooden box. So basically that has a battery in it. You press the button just like on the vaporizers, it heats up that battery, and it heats up the chamber, and your dried marijuana, the trichomes melt. And basically when you inhale, you're inhaling, you know, a pure amount of THC. You're not inhaling all the dry product like you would get. So it's, you know, of course, it's healthier for your lungs, but you're getting a higher concentration of the THC. And you see the picture on the left, that's a vaporizer. There's like usually, you saw glass chambers, and some of those chambers, some of those vaporizers are designed to do a dry product. Most of them are designed to do a wax or a liquid, you know, dab, shatter, which we'll talk about. Yes.
Did you see the dry product to be the actual like
Lead,
marijuana leaves?
yes, yeah.
Is the liquid product as expensive as the dry product?
Is it as, it's a little more expensive. because you could just have basically a high concentration of THC, and it makes a little more, you need a little more dry marijuana to produce a particular amount, which I'm not sure exactly what the breakdown is, but I can show you some prices.
Is it readily available?
Oh, it's out there. So this is a method, and we've all heard about all the fires and explosions in Rhode Island alone. So this is someone that's using butane to make, to extract the THC to make butane oil. So basically, they take a glass turkey baster, or not a baster. You have the needle on one end, and you have your bulb on the other to suck up the juices. Where the bulb would be, they put a coffee filter and they attach it with a clamp or elastic, whatever you want to use. And the butane companies are great because they sell all different tops, so you can screw them onto the turkey baster. So in this case here, they pack this turkey baster with marijuana, put a coffee filter on one end, and the guy's extracting all the butane into that baster. So the butane's wetting all the marijuana. I mean, it's not a great picture, but you can see the color that's coming out. It's like a brownish liquid. Basically, that butane is pulling out all the THC. We talked about the trichomes that are in a wax. Because of the butane, because of its chemical structure, it's basically melting that wax, pulling out the THC. And they'll keep doing this until that comes out clear. And this is going into a glass bowl. So basically, when they're done, they're going to have a glass bowl with butane and THC. So now we have a problem. We have to cook off the butane without blowing ourselves up. Last summer, there was a fire in explosion in South Kingstown, in the Tunic area. One guy died. It was because they were producing the butane oil. There's a mill explosion in Providence, which our office is charging the 2 guys. That blew up, wiped out that whole portion of the mill. There's been, I think, a condo fire in Westerly and one in West Warwick. So what you have here is a double heating system with water at the bottom. They're going to put that glass bowl on here, heat it up. You can see the butane boiling, and that's the THC inside with the butane. And this is a more sophisticated system that these guys are using. It has a vacuum top on it, and they're doing it outside, which is a good thing. But the mistakes people are making, some aren't using the vacuum top, some are doing open flames. And you can watch, unfortunately, for us as parents, you just Google this stuff, and I've watched some people, stoned out of their minds telling people how to make this. I'm like, this guy's gonna blow up. So it's very dangerous. It's a total different thing as a parent to be aware of. So once that liquid cooks off, they pour it again through the coffee filter, and that's what you end up with. So it's called, butane oil, honey oil, wax, dabs, shatter, a lot of different names. And you take a little piece of that and you put it inside that vaporizer, and you can take it to school with you. And it's, again, anywhere from 85 to 99% pure THC. So you see that piece right there, that's really clear. It doesn't have a lot of bubbles in it, doesn't have different colors in it. That means that they did a really good job cooking it off. So that's probably the higher range of THC. But one hit, again, some DEA reports that it's equal to smoking 20 joints. So you wonder what this is going to do to a young kid. And
Can you actually say what it does to a young kid?
I'm sorry?
Can you actually say what you said? You wonder what it will do to a young kid.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the end. There's a lot. I have slides that this is what kids are experiencing from it. A lot of kids, depression, temporary psychosis. I mean, it's knocking kids out. That's just a vaporizer being loaded with a piece to be smoked, taken to school, shared. And again, this is where we run into the problem. They cook off, they use that butane, and then they use the old-fashioned bomb. In this case here, they take a pastry torch, heat up the head of the nail, put a piece of that honey or butane oil on it, and then take a drag. So this is where, if you just got done making that butane oil, and that butane's in your sleeves, in your shirt, rugs, carpet, furniture, you're going to have an explosion. This is a picture of a place where the police did a search warrant. If you see the glass tubes, same type of system, just more elaborate and bigger. And they have a pressure cooker with the vacuum. They have the butane bottles and scale and I'm not sure what the gun was used for, but. So the state of Colorado has had a 167% increase in butane hash oil explosions. 167% increase. So it's coming to Rhode Island. DEA reported 30 similar fires explosions across 6 New England states during the past 16 months. Okay, so that was the production of butane oil. So I just want to show you how they can also make shatter. Okay, and the shatter is used to smoke in the vaporizers. Very simple. They take the marijuana, dry marijuana, they put it in something like a cloth, almost like a tea bag, where there's little holes in it. And then they take parchment paper, and they put the parchment paper over the marijuana that's in the tea bag. Then they take a hair straightener, or just heat it up. And basically they just keep squeezing the marijuana on the parchment paper so that it's heating up. And what's melting in the marijuana? The wax, the trichomes. And basically that's what you end up with. You end up with little pieces of almost looks like glass, just the wax. They let it cool, and you have, it's called shatter. And again, they make this on a more elaborate systems also, but I just want, you need to know this so that, oh yeah, my son has hair like mine, and he wants to borrow your hair straightener. Why? I haven't used one in a while, so, yes.
Does it feel like glass?
I'm sorry?
Does that feel like glass?
It's not as hard, but almost like that candy, the brittle candy. So again, you can see that on the left, the guy's taking a little pen, he's scooping up some of that shatter, and he's gonna smoke it in his bond for us right on the internet. It shows you how.
So would you just smoke that, or would you eat it as well? Is it like hard candy as well?
It's the same thing. You can put that in a vaporizer,
Yeah.
and the vaporizer chamber will heat up. It will melt it, and then you can inhale it.
Okay.
Or you can smoke it through a bond. This guy heated it up. He burnt the nail with a pastry torch, and then he dabbed it on there.
But you wouldn't ingest it. You wouldn't get the desired result from ingesting it.
You would what, sorry?
Would you, if they ate it? I mean, it looks like rock.
Oh no, you can
It
eat
looks
it.
hard
It's like rock candy.
They wouldn't eat it.
You can't eat it.
They can't.
You can, yeah. All the stuff that's being made, the butane oil, honey oil, all the stuff, the shatter, they're putting this in food products too. Okay, so you have 85 to 99% pure THC going in food products.
Do kids go online to find out how to do all this stuff?
I'm sure they do. So with the edibles, edibles can contain 3 to 20 times the amount of THC. And again, those edibles are made just how I just talked, just what we just talked about with the extractions. So what's the problem with edibles? We've had kids eat edibles in, I know of at least 3 schools. Yes?
The picture you just showed looked like they were packaged. and
Yes, so these are from
buy those?
these are from Colorado. They look like gummy bears. And there was a school in the southern part of the state 2 years ago where the kids ate gummy bears that were THC laced, and 4 or 5 of them were all taken to the hospital by rescue. The problem with edibles compared to smoking, when you smoke, that THC goes right into your lungs, into your brain. You feel it within seconds. With edibles, the THC gets processed through your liver first and gets sent all through your system. And it takes a lot longer. It takes anywhere from, say, 40 minutes to an hour and a half. So what happens is kids eat these gummy bears. There might be 100 milligrams of THC in one gummy bear, or in a candy bar, or brownies, or whatever it is. They might take a bite, they don't feel anything for an hour, and they say, oh, I'll eat more. I know if you give me a brownie, I'm gonna eat more than one bite. So what's happening is these kids getting so much THC into their systems because they're not waiting. The THC gets processed differently. It gets, when you eat the THC, you ingest it, it goes from a 9-something THC to an 11-something THC. It'll last much longer than smoking it, and you have more psychedelic effects from using it than smoking it, from eating it. So right now, the state of Colorado, yes.
It was quite to get at my question. When you say edibles, like I know like you can bake marijuana into food and things, but those look like they were commercially produced and you could order them. Or
Right, so those
purchase
are-
them in the store.
Those are produced in all the compassion centers throughout all the states where marijuana is legal,
And can
including
they be
here.
ordered on the, like on a, could you order them off the web? Or do you
I
have to
don't,
go to a
I
dispensary?
don't, I haven't checked to see if you can. I don't know if
Okay.
you can order them on the web, so they'll ship them to your house in Rhode Island, from Colorado.
They may.
They, I mean, you know, anybody, people want to make money, so I'm not sure. I haven't seen, I can't say that. Yeah, I can call Colorado and ask them to mail me a package of those, and they will. I don't know, but these are all being packaged here also at the compassion centers for patients.
Are they
Right,
showing
if I could just jump into Lauren's question. You know, for the regular consumer, like any one of us to go on Google and try to find that, probably not.
Okay, so
To
they're
a
not
savvy
showing-
internet person who can go a little deeper into the web, into like the deep web, and bypass a few things, very readily available.
So Colorado's had some issues with people consuming too much edibles. They limit their edibles now. The package can be up to 10 servings, and it's 10 milligrams, I believe, per serving. So right there's 100 milligrams of THC in one product. It might be a brownie, a candy bar, cookie, whatever it is. And this is coming to Rhode Island. I mean, our state's looking to legalize marijuana. Right now we have a medical marijuana, and we'll talk a little bit about it. One other way that people extract the THC, you can use wrapped marijuana in cheesecloth, put a couple sticks of butter in a frying pan, or you can use coconut oil, whatever you want to use. You let it simmer, you add a little water, let it simmer for a couple hours. You will know if your child's doing this, your house will smell very bad. So most kids aren't going to do this, but again, this is on the web. They're teaching kids to do this. You basically let this simmer at a low heat for a couple hours. You take your substance that you have, you pour it into a tin container. You put it in the freezer. The butter or the coconut oil then hardens, rises to the top, pulling the THC with it. The water stays at the bottom. You poke a hole in the little tin foil thing, let the water out. Now you have a nice THC-laced coconut oil or butter that you can put into wonderful brownies to take to school. Or you can put them in lollipops. So, real quick, in 2013, Rhode Island led the country in the amount of kids 12 to 18 years old to 17-year-olds that smoked marijuana. So think about that. We beat Colorado, we beat Washington, we beat states where it was legal. That's crazy. Right now we rank 4th, so I don't know if more kids in other states are using it, or our kids just got smarter. Hopefully it's the later. In Rhode Island, we have approximately, I think there's more than 10,000 patients. 13,000 patients, and we have under 3,500 caregivers. So a caregiver can provide marijuana for up to 5 patients. A caregiver is allowed to grow 24 plants. Patients are allowed to grow 12 plants. And there's new laws that are trying to change some of the stuff and tax it, and et cetera. But I just want to give you an idea how much marijuana can be out here. If caregivers can grow 24 plants, and we'll just say the average grower can get about 2 pounds a plant. If you do the math, growers can do 3 grow cycles a year. They have to grow indoors, that's the law. Not all do, but you can do 3 grow cycles in a year, 24 plants times 2 pounds, that's 48 pounds. And if we take the 48 pounds times the 3,500 caregivers, that's 168,000 pounds, and then the 3 cycles a year, you basically have over 500,000 pounds of marijuana in the streets of Rhode Island. That doesn't include what the patients grow. So you wonder why we're number 1. I mean, if you have extra marijuana, what are you going to do with it? And here's the thing. If I'm a caregiver and I have 48 pounds, by law, I can only have 5 ounces of usable marijuana on me at any given time. 5 ounces, but I have 48 pounds. So what I can do legally is I can call the compassion center, and this is how most of the compassion centers are getting their marijuana. I call the compassion center, they come pick it up, and they give me about $1,000 a pound. Before they do, they usually take it back to the compassion center and test it for mold, mites, and mildew, not for THC content, not for any other drugs. So, do you really know what you get at the compassion centers too? But just to give you an idea how much marijuana is out here, and people asked about price. This is one of the compassion centers. This chocolate chip cookie that you see, it's a 2-pack. There's 60 milligrams of THC in each cookie. And they're selling one cookie with 15 milligrams for $3. $3 a cookie. So if I'm a patient and I want to make myself some money, it's a great thing to sell to kids. Last year, nationwide, legal marijuana sales rose 17% to $5.4 billion. And if every state had legalized marijuana, they said the revenue would be $36.8 billion. Just to give you an idea. Some quick stats for you. I'll probably skip the stats regarding Colorado and Washington, but none of them are good. There's more traffic fatalities, THC related. There's more arrests for kids in school due to marijuana use. There was a 66% increase in the number of kids going to treatment centers. Again, you're talking high amounts of THC that young kids are using, and it's very dangerous. And I thought this stat was very interesting. You know, the low-income neighborhoods in Denver, Colorado, they had one marijuana store for every 47 residents. It's like having a Dunkin' Donuts in every corner. So some of the negative things about marijuana, and I know our kids are so confused right now because every time they look at the paper or the news, we're trying to legalize it. You know, the governor's talking about, oh, it's a great revenue. Like, come on, is it really? I mean, do we want to legalize it and let our kids even? I mean, it's out there already. So, and there's different views, and we don't have to argue about the different views, but already lots of kids are smoking. If we legalize it, they're going to say, oh, it's legal, so it's okay. So I'll smoke it. But I don't know if that's the right thing for us to do. So just some of the issues. Short-term memory impairment, attention problems, judgment problems. And just, I mean, you think about people that have smoked. You see them, they don't want to move, they're apathetic, they're sitting on the couch, give me the Doritos or whatever else. And you know, there's all different strains of marijuana. Kids react differently to. Some give you the couch lock, and some kind of pick you up like a cup of coffee and make you a little more creative, supposedly. But a lot of anxiety, a lot of paranoia, psychosis. My son's best friend called him up. He was smoking a lot of one of his best friends. He was smoking a lot of marijuana, started vaping. He talked to my son, told him that 3 times he put a belt around his neck in the closet and was going to hang himself. My son met with his parents and they let him help, and he's doing great, but they attribute it all to the marijuana. And you know, you got kids on all different types of medicines. Kids say, oh, I don't need the medicine because I can just smoke weed. Weed's good for me. It's medical marijuana. So a lot of kids are trying to regulate their own medicine. You know, an argument with kids is it medicine or is it, what is it? I mean, if we're saying it's medical marijuana and the kids are saying, oh, it's good for me, then why aren't we taking other medications too, like, you know, whatever it may be, like Vicodin and Oxycontin, or like, if it's a drug, it's a drug. If it's a drug for medications, then that's what it is. But why are we going to legalize it if we're saying that, oh no, this is for medical purposes? How does marijuana affect the user's life? Lower life satisfaction, poorer mental health, poorer physical health, and more relationship problems. Users also report less academic and career success. And again, I think we all want the best for our kids. It's a tough time as parents to explain to them that this is okay. And with 13,000 patients, I'm sure a lot of those patients have kids, and if they're not taking it for medical purposes, I've done some talks at schools where, you know, a girl told me, oh, I take medication for depression, but my whole family smokes marijuana, so I use marijuana now instead of my depression medication. There's more suicides, there's more deaths. There is a great potential for addiction. And again, it all depends on, you know, her and I can both smoke marijuana, and I may be fine, she may become addicted to it. You never know, it's based on a lot of different circumstances, so you just don't know. It's like playing Russian roulette. And again, the physical symptoms, if you're smoking marijuana and you're smoking cigarettes too, there's a strong cause and effect with lung cancer, the trait, throat cancer, etc. A lot of athletes, think, oh, I'd rather smoke marijuana than drink. If I drink, cops are going to stop me. They're going to know I was drinking. I get charged with DUI. My parents are going to smell the alcohol. A lot of different reasons, but I threw the slide in here for some of the athletes and people playing instruments. It impairs your skills requiring eye-hand coordination, fast reaction time. It reduces your motor coordination, your ability to track things. It impairs your concentration. And skill impairment may last between 24 to 36 hours after usage. And the thing with marijuana is it's a fat soluble. It stays in your system longer. Compared to alcohol, you drink it, your body, your liver processes it, and it's gone, it's out of your system. Where marijuana stays in there a lot longer. Now, I'm sure being in North Kingstown, everybody heard how Quonset Point was trying to hire 1,300 of the workers, but no one could pass the marijuana free test that they were doing. So we have a problem. So I mean, everybody's saying, oh, there's unemployment, this and that, but here we have right here Quonset. They're looking to hire guys, but because it's a federal contract, you have to be free of any foreign substances like marijuana, cocaine, and heroin, and people can't pass the test to become employed. That's a problem. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I give you guys credit being here. I know it's a Wednesday night and no one wants to come out after work, and I applaud your efforts. You have great hearts for your kids. Come and listen and know what's going on. Fortunately, it'd be nice to see this place packed, but that's how it is. And I know as a parent, I didn't always go out either.
From a school perspective, you're all here tonight, and I can't thank you enough for being here, because it tells me you want to learn and you want to know more and you want to be aware. And so, this may not be your kid, and I'm hoping it's none of your kids, right? But it might be your neighbor or your nephew or your niece, and it is very prevalent. As a school, we only know what we know. We only know what we see, just like you. So I hope you've learned some stuff here, but I want you to know the school's position is that if you are in doubt or if you have questions, we are an institution of learning and supporting children and making our community whole. Our community has seen far too many tragedies in just the 10 years I've been here and beyond that. So our stance is that if you have questions or you have information, we want you to call us. And it's not a police matter. What happens in our school happens in our school, and we make decisions. We make conscientious decisions about what's a school matter and what's a police matter. And we work in conjunction with our SRO and the NKPD on that. And I would say if you have questions or concerns and you're not quite comfortable maybe reaching out to the deans or to myself or to a guidance counselor, Jessica Wilkie, our Students Assistance Coordinator, has privacy rights. She's a third party. She is not affiliated with North Kingstown as a public institution. She is not paid by the North Kingstown school community. So she is a neutral party to help get resources to kids, to help answer your questions, to help get you to the resources you need. In fact, Jessica has been very instrumental to us this year when we have had areas of concerns about students or suspicions about students or information is brought to us, but we can't quite prove it, or we don't want to get into this judicial process with kids and being accusatory without having solid. We're here to promote an education and make our kids well. So in that circumstance, we give that information to Jessica. Jessica has met with I don't want to say a large number, but she has met, and many I don't even know. We don't want to know. We want parents and students to feel comfortable to get the information they need without it becoming a school consequence, or their students are labeled or identified, and it's going to impact their education here, but their education when they leave us. So that's our stance. However, we will not tolerate for drug use, abuse in our building. Vaporizers, we do find them. They're hard, they're really tricky. I will tell you, I've been in public places, not just here at the high school. You know, many of, I grew up in the 80s, so if you remember like Love's Baby's Soft, or that perfume, right? That kind of perfumey smell. Or cotton candy, right? If you smell cotton candy at a fair, it just gets you right in the nose. You're like, oh, this is cotton candy, right? You probably walked into a vapor. You know, if you're getting that pungent, like sweet smell, just as you described. Someone has probably walked by you just seconds before with a vaporizer, and that's the oil and the marketing. And so there's that. But the dangers of the marijuana use. So, you know, that's our stand on how we handle those situations. It's student by student basis, and you know, and we take every lead seriously, and we will have questions with students. If we're in doubt, we do have the right, we just need reasonable suspicion, which is less than what the police department needs to have. We will talk to students, we will get information from them, we will search backpacks and lockers and cars if we feel it's warranted, and we call parents. And we love to call you and be wrong, absolutely, in an abundance of caution. All students that come through our office that we're suspicious of see the school nurse. We have a clear protocol, and you asked about some signs, things that she looks for are heart rate, dilated pupils, blood pressure, and those types of things. And then, you know, we call parents and say, you know, we're not sure, we think we would be more comfortable if you came and picked your child up today.
That's great, Thomas. Yes.
What are the students told to do if they have concerns about a friend?
Well, I think that's going to vary, you know, from student to student what their comfort level is. I would hope that every student in our building has an adult in this building they feel comfortable and safe talking to and bringing that information to them. Anytime we get information from a student, even from a parent or a concerned neighbor or a community member, we keep that anonymous. What we do is we would pull a child aside and say, hey, listen, we have suspicion to believe, or an adult in our building is concerned about this, and just in an abundance of caution, we're going to check your backpack, or we're going to have a conversation. And I have to tell you, in most instances, kids are very honest. They are very honest.